The stars around Earth suddenly changed. Where empty space had been moments before, massive alien ships appeared like dark clouds, blocking out the light. Admiral Zexhai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Render, and smiled as he watched his fleet take position around the small blue planet. 3,000 ships had come with him. Some were small and fast, like hunting wolves. Others were huge beyond imagination, bigger than cities, with weapons that could turn mountains into dust. They formed a perfect circle around Earth, trapping the humans like fish in a net. Zexhai had fought many wars for the Kethvar Dominion. He had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species. This would be easy work. His scouts had told him everything about these humans. They had only learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. Their weapons were nothing compared to the might of the Dominion. "Sir," his second-in-command said, "all ships are in position. The humans cannot escape." "Perfect," Zexhai replied. "Soon they will see our power and surrender. Then we can begin harvesting their world." On Earth, chaos seemed to break out everywhere. News channels showed people running through the streets in panic. Government leaders held emergency meetings in underground bunkers. Military commanders spoke in hushed voices about the impossible odds they faced. How could Earth's small fleet of ships fight against 3,000 alien vessels? President Chen appeared on every screen across the world. Her face was pale, and her voice shook as she spoke. "My fellow humans," she said, "we face our darkest hour. An alien fleet has surrounded our planet. We must stand together if we hope to survive." But deep beneath the Swiss mountains, in a secret bunker that few people knew existed, a different scene was playing out. Admiral Sarah Voss sat at a large table surrounded by military officers from every major nation on Earth. These were not the same leaders who appeared on television. These people had been planning for this day for decades. Admiral Voss was not afraid. Her eyes were cold and calm as she watched the alien ships on her screens. She had short gray hair and scars on her hands from years of dangerous work. She had spent most of her life preparing for this moment. "Are all stations ready?" she asked the room. "Mars base reports ready," said Colonel Martinez from his chair at the table. "Asteroid mining platforms are online," reported Captain Kim. "Lunar installations are powered up and waiting," added Commander Jackson. Admiral Voss nodded slowly. Everything had gone exactly as planned. The aliens had taken the bait perfectly. They saw what humans wanted them to see, a weak, frightened species with primitive technology. They had no idea what was really waiting for them. "Gentlemen and ladies," Admiral Voss said quietly, "they have made their first and last mistake. They think they are hunting us, but we have been hunting them for 50 years. Begin Protocol Shepard." The room filled with quiet activity as officers sent coded messages to secret bases across the solar system. These messages would wake up weapons and soldiers that had been hiding for decades. The aliens thought they were surrounding Earth, but they had actually flown into the biggest trap in human history. Zexhai did not know any of this. He stood on his bridge and felt proud of his easy victory. Soon he would contact the human leaders and demand their surrender. Then his ships would land and begin taking everything valuable from their world. The Dominion always needed new slaves and resources. His communication officer turned to him. "Sir, we are receiving a message from the planet. It appears to be from their leader." "Put it on the main screen," Zexhai ordered. He wanted to enjoy watching the humans beg for mercy. President Chen's face appeared on the screen, but something was wrong. She did not look afraid anymore. Her eyes were steady, and her voice was strong. "We have been expecting you," she said calmly. "Your arrival was predicted and planned for. We should discuss terms." Zexhai laughed. "Terms? You are surrounded by the greatest fleet in the galaxy. You have no choice but to surrender." "You misunderstand," President Chen replied. "We do not wish to discuss surrender terms. We want to talk about the terms of your withdrawal from human space." The alien admiral's laughter died in his throat. What kind of trick was this? The humans had nothing that could threaten his mighty fleet. Their ships were few and weak. Their weapons were like toys compared to Dominion technology. "You are bluffing," he said. "I can destroy your entire world with a single command." President Chen smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Admiral, you came here thinking you were the hunters, but you have made a terrible mistake. You are in our territory now, and we have been preparing for visitors like you for a very long time." As she spoke, alarms began ringing all over Zexai's ship. His officers were shouting reports that made no sense. The sensors were detecting energy signatures that should not exist on a primitive world like Earth. The defense platforms around the planet were powering up weapons that seemed decades ahead of what humans should have been able to build. But the most frightening reports were coming from the edges of his fleet. His scouts were finding things in the asteroid belt that looked like mining equipment, but read on sensors like weapons platforms. Installations on Mars that were supposed to be research bases were opening launch bays that had been hidden under the planet's surface. Zexai felt cold fear creep into his heart. This was not possible. His intelligence reports had been perfect. The humans were supposed to be weak and helpless. They were supposed to surrender the moment they saw his fleet. "What have you done?" he whispered. President Chen's smile grew wider. "We learned, Admiral. We learned everything about you, while you thought we were just playing with rockets and dreaming of the stars. Now the question is, are you smart enough to leave while you still can?" Admiral Zexai stared at the human woman on his screen. President Chen looked back at him with calm eyes that showed no fear. This was all wrong. Every species the Dominion had conquered had begged for mercy when they saw the size of the Kethvar fleet. But this human acted like she held all the power. "You are making a mistake," Zexai said, trying to sound confident. "My fleet can turn your world into burning rock. Surrender now, and some of your people might live as our slaves." President Chen tilted her head slightly. "Admiral, I think you are the one making a mistake. You came here with old information about us. Very old and very wrong information." As she spoke, more alarms rang across Zexai's ship. His sensor officer was reading reports with growing confusion. "Sir, I am detecting energy readings from the human defense satellites that do not match our intelligence reports. These weapons are far more advanced than they should be." Zexai felt his confidence beginning to crack. "That is impossible. Our spies have watched this planet for decades. We know exactly what technology they have." "Do you?" President Chen asked quietly. "Tell me, Admiral, what do you think we have been doing for the last 50 years? Do you really think we just built a few simple spaceships and stopped there?" Far out in the asteroid belt, Commander Sarah Mills sat in the control center of what looked like a normal mining station. She had been waiting in this hidden base for 3 years, ready for this exact moment. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at their stations, preparing weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment for decades. "All platforms report ready," her deputy announced. "We have target locks on the rear formation of their fleet." The aliens had made exactly the mistake human planners had hoped for. They had focused all their attention on Earth and ignored everything else in the solar system. They thought the asteroid belt was just rocks and mining stations. They had no idea it was actually the largest weapons platform ever built. "Fire when Admiral Voss gives the signal," Mills ordered. "And remember, we want to leave enough of them alive to spread the word about what they found here." On Mars, similar preparations were happening in secret bases buried deep under the red planet's surface. What the aliens thought were simple research stations were actually military command centers that had taken 30 years to build. Captain Torres watched as his hidden launch bays opened for the first time. since their construction began. All fighters are ready for launch, his flight commander reported. The enemy has no idea we are here. Captain Torres smiled grimly. Today, they learn why you never trust what humans show you on the surface. Back on Earth, Admiral Voss was coordinating the most complex military operation in human history from her underground bunker. Screens around the room showed the positions of every ship, weapon, and soldier in the solar system. Red dots marked the alien vessels, while green dots showed human forces that the aliens could not see. Lunar Base reports all systems armed and ready, Colonel Martinez announced. Excellent, Admiral Voss replied. What about the cloaked ships? All 40 stealth vessels are in position within their formation, Captain Kim reported. They have been shadowing the alien fleet for 2 weeks without being detected. Admiral Voss allowed herself a small smile. The hardest part of the plan had been keeping their true capabilities hidden for so long. For 50 years, humanity had deliberately made their public space program look weak and primitive. They launched simple rockets and built basic space stations while their real work happened in complete secrecy. Every accident that brought them alien technology had been carefully planned. Every failed experiment had actually been a success that they hid from the galaxy. Every setback in their space program had been an excuse to spend more time secretly building weapons and ships that their enemies would never expect. Admiral Zexhai was beginning to understand that something was very wrong. His science officer had been running scans of the human fleet for the last hour, and the results made no sense. "Sir," the science officer said nervously, "these energy signatures are impossible. Some of these ships are reading as more advanced than our own vessels, but that cannot be right." "Run the scans again," Zexhai ordered. "There must be an error." "I have run them 6 times, sir." Somehow, the humans have technology that our intelligence never detected. On the main screen, President Chen was still watching them with that calm, confident expression. "Are you beginning to understand, Admiral? We have been preparing for visitors like you since the day we learned we were not alone in the universe. While you thought we were playing with simple rockets, our best scientists were developing weapons specifically designed to fight the Kedvar Dominion." Zexhai felt a chill run through his body. "How do you know about the Dominion? We have never contacted your species before today." President Chen's smile grew cold. "Who said we waited for you to contact us? We have been watching you fight other species for decades. We studied every battle, every tactic, every weapon you used. We learned all your weaknesses while you thought we were too primitive to be a threat." The alien admiral's hands began to shake. His fleet was not facing a weak, helpless species. They were facing predators who had been hunting them from the shadows for decades. "All ships, raise shields and prepare for battle," he ordered his fleet. "We may have walked into a trap." But even as he gave the order, Zexhai knew it might already be too late. The humans had positioned his entire fleet exactly where they wanted them. Every ship was in the perfect spot to be destroyed by weapons the Dominion did not even know existed. Admiral Voss checked her chronometer. "All stations, this is Control. Execute Operation Shepherd in 30 seconds. Show them what happens when someone tries to hunt humanity." Around the solar system, weapons that had been hidden for decades came online. Ships that had been cloaked became visible. Installations that looked harmless revealed their true purpose. The greatest ambush in galactic history was about to begin. And Admiral Zexhai, who had conquered dozens of worlds, realized that he had made the worst mistake of his long military career. He had not come to hunt sheep. He had walked into a wolf pack's territory, and now the wolves were ready to show him their teeth. The first attack came from the darkness beyond Pluto, where the aliens thought nothing lived except ice and rock. Massive metal slugs, accelerated to nearly the speed of light by hidden railguns, tore through space like invisible death. They struck the rear ships of Zexhai's fleet before any alarms could sound. The Dominion destroyer cleaving blade simply vanished in a flash of light and metal fragments. Its sister ship Void Hunter lasted 1 second longer before another railgun slug punched through its shields and core like they were made of paper. In 30 seconds, 12 Kethvar ships died before their crews even knew they were under attack. Admiral Zexhai spun around as his bridge erupted in chaos. "Report. What is happening to my rear guard?" His tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. "Sir, we are under attack by unknown weapons. The projectiles are coming from beyond our sensor range. We cannot locate the source. Impossible!" Zexhai roared. "There is nothing out there but empty space." But even as he spoke, more of his ships died. The humans had spent decades building railgun platforms in the outer solar system, disguised as deep space monitoring stations. Each one could fire projectiles with the force of nuclear weapons, and the aliens had no idea where the attacks were coming from. Commander Mills smiled grimly from her hidden asteroid base as she watched the alien fleet's confusion. "Target their command ships next," she ordered. "Let's see how they handle losing their officers." The asteroid belt suddenly came alive with deadly light. Hundreds of platforms that had looked like simple mining equipment revealed their true nature. Massive weapons that had been built over 30 years of secret construction opened fire on the aliens from every direction. But the railguns were not the worst surprise waiting for Admiral Zexhai. As his fleet tried to respond to the long-range attacks, space itself seemed to shimmer around his ships. 40 human vessels that had been completely invisible suddenly appeared in the middle of his formation. These were not the crude ships the aliens expected. They were sleek predators built in hidden shipyards on the far side of the moon. Their hulls were black as space, designed to absorb sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Their weapons were based on Kethvar technology that humans had been secretly studying for decades. Captain Lisa Chen commanded one of these boast ships. Her vessel, the Silent Death, materialized less than a kilometer from a Kethvar cruiser. Before the aliens could react, she fired her main guns directly into their engine core. "Direct hit," her weapons officer reported. "Enemy cruiser is dead in space." "Find the next target," Captain Chen ordered calmly. "We have 40 years of anger to work out on these invaders." All around Zexhai's fleet, the same scene played out. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with deadly precision, then vanished back into stealth mode before the aliens could return fire. It was like fighting ghosts that could kill. Admiral Zexhai watched his tactical display fill with red warning lights as ship after ship disappeared from his fleet. This was not a battle. It was a slaughter. "All ships, break formation and scatter," he commanded. "We need to get out of this trap." But there was nowhere to run. The asteroid belt stretched in every direction, and each piece of floating rock might hide another weapons platform. The outer planets all had human installations that were firing on his fleet. Even the path back to open space was blocked by more hidden railguns. Admiral Voss watched the battle from her command bunker with satisfaction. The aliens had walked into the most carefully prepared ambush in military history. "Status report," she requested. "Asteroid platforms have destroyed 37 enemy vessels," Colonel Martinez announced. "Stealth fleet reports 23 confirmed kills. Long-range railguns have eliminated 15 more." "Casualties on our side?" Admiral Voss asked. "None, ma'am. The enemy has not been able to target any of our forces effectively." Admiral Voss nodded. That was the beauty of their plan. The humans were not fighting the aliens ship to ship like honorable warriors. They were hunting them like the predators humanity had always been. On Mars, Captain Torres launched his hidden fighter squadrons. These small, fast ships had been built for one purpose: to swarm through alien formations too quickly to be targeted, while firing weapons that could punch through any shield. "Remember," he told his pilots, "you are not trying to win a fair fight. You are trying to kill every alien in this system before they can escape to warn their people about what they found here. The Martian fighters swept through space like angry wasps, impossible to catch, but deadly to anyone they stung. They targeted the aliens' communication arrays and sensor equipment, making sure that Zexai's fleet could not coordinate their defense or call for help. Back on his flagship, Admiral Zexai was learning what it felt like to be prey instead of predator. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by enemies he could barely see. Every tactic he tried failed because the humans seemed to know exactly what he would do before he did it. "Sir," his communication officer called out desperately, "I am receiving a message from the human fleet command." Admiral Voss's voice filled the Kethvar bridge. She sounded calm and professional, like she was discussing the weather instead of destroying the most powerful fleet in known space. "Admiral Zexai," she said, "I am Admiral Sarah Voss of the Human Defense Force. I wanted to speak with you while you still have enough ships left to carry a message back to your people." Zexai's face twisted with rage and fear. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to understand what just happened to you," Admiral Voss replied. "You came here expecting to fight a weak, primitive species. Instead, you found apex predators who have been preparing for this moment for 50 years. We studied you. We learned your weaknesses. We turned our entire solar system into a weapon designed specifically to kill Kethvar ships." As she spoke, more alien vessels died around Zexai's flagship. His proud fleet of 3,000 ships was being reduced to scrap metal by enemies who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Your technology should not be this advanced." Admiral Voss laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. "That is what we wanted you to think, Admiral. While you were watching our public space program stumble around with simple rockets, our real scientists were building these weapons. Every piece of your technology that we captured in accidents was reverse-engineered and improved. Every battle you fought was recorded and studied. We know more about fighting the Kethvar Dominion than most of your own officers do." Admiral Zexai looked at his tactical display and felt despair crush his hearts. He had started this day with 3,000 ships. Now less than 800 remained, and more were dying every minute. The humans had not just defeated him. They had humiliated him. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "I want you to remember this lesson," Admiral Voss said. "Never underestimate humanity again." Captain Maria Santos gripped her command chair as her destroyer, the Relentless Storm, dove through Saturn's rings at impossible speed. Behind her, 3 Kethvar cruisers were trying to follow, their massive hulls struggling to navigate through the ice and rock that filled the space around the giant planet. "Captain, we are taking damage from debris impacts," her engineer reported. "The aliens are falling back. They cannot match our maneuvers in this environment." Maria smiled coldly. The aliens had superior numbers and firepower, but they fought like machines following programs. Humans fought like the clever predators they had always been. Every battle was a puzzle to solve, and humans were very good at solving puzzles. "Bring us around behind that large ice chunk," she ordered. "When the lead cruiser passes by, we hit them with everything we have." This was what the Kethvar Dominion could never understand about humanity. Their species had conquered the galaxy by building bigger ships and more powerful weapons than everyone else. They won through brute force and overwhelming numbers. But humans had learned to fight differently. The Relentless Storm emerged from behind the ice boulder just as the alien cruiser passed by. Maria's weapons officer fired their experimental plasma cannons directly into the enemy's engine section. The alien ship exploded in a ball of green fire that lit up Saturn's rings like a deadly aurora. "2 more targets incoming," her tactical officer announced. "Then let's give them a proper welcome," Maria replied. She was enjoying this battle more than she probably should have. For too long, humans had pretended to be weak, while aliens like these conquered and enslaved other species. Today was payback time. Across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out, as human commanders showed the aliens what real tactical genius looked like. Commander Liu Wei found himself surrounded by 4 Kethvar destroyers near Jupiter's moons. His ship, the Fighting Phoenix, was badly damaged and outnumbered. Instead of surrendering or trying to escape, Liu Wei did something the aliens never expected. He evacuated his entire crew into stealth escape pods, then programmed his ship's computer to ram the largest enemy vessel at maximum speed. The aliens tried to destroy the approaching ship with their weapons, but Liu Wei had angled his approach perfectly. The Fighting Phoenix struck the enemy destroyer at nearly half the speed of light, and both ships vanished in an explosion that could be seen from Earth. "This is Commander Liu Wei to all human forces." His voice came over the radio from his escape pod. "The Phoenix has completed her final mission. Good hunting, everyone." Admiral Voss listened to the report from her command bunker and felt proud of her officers. This was why humanity would win this war. They were not just fighting for territory or resources like most species did. They were fighting for the right to exist free from alien control, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon. "Admiral," Colonel Martinez reported, "we are receiving tactical data from all combat zones. Our forces are performing better than projected. Enemy losses are approaching 60% of their original fleet strength." "What about our casualties?" Admiral Voss asked. "Surprisingly light, ma'am. We have lost 18 ships total. Most of our crews have been successfully recovered by rescue teams." Admiral Voss nodded. The aliens were learning a hard lesson about fighting humans. When other species lost ships, they lost them completely. When humans lost ships, they made sure their people lived to fight again. Every human life was precious, because every human could think of new ways to kill their enemies. Near Mars, Captain Torres was leading a squadron of fighters in an attack on a Kethvar battleship that was trying to escape the inner solar system. The massive alien vessel was 10 times larger than all his fighters combined. But size meant nothing if you knew how to use it against your enemy. "All fighters, execute Pattern 7, Torres ordered. "Let's show them why bigger is not always better." The human fighters split into 3 groups and attacked the battleship from different angles. The aliens could only point their main guns in one direction at a time, so they could not target all the attacking groups at once. While they focused their fire on one group of fighters, the other 2 groups hit them with missiles and energy weapons. But the real genius of the attack was what Captain Torres did not tell the aliens. While they were busy trying to shoot down his fighters, a human stealth ship was quietly attaching explosives to their hull. When the charges detonated, they tore holes in the battleship's armor that the fighters could exploit. "Direct hits on their main reactor," Torres reported as the alien battleship began to break apart. "That's another one down. How many does that make today?" All across the battlefield, human forces were proving that they could outthink any enemy, no matter how powerful. The Kethvar had built their empire by being stronger and tougher than everyone else. But humans had built their strength by being smarter and more creative than anyone expected. Admiral Zexhai was beginning to understand the true horror of what his fleet had encountered. These humans did not fight like any species the Dominion had ever faced. They used tricks and tactics that no Kethvar commander would ever think of. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "the humans are using our own tactics against us, but they are doing them better than we do. They seem to know exactly how we will respond to each situation." "That is because they have been watching us fight for decades," Zexhai said bitterly. "They studied every battle we ever fought and learned all our weaknesses." On his main screen, he watched human ships perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. They used gravity from planets to change direction without using fuel. They hid behind moons and asteroids like space pirates instead of fighting with honor. They coordinated attacks from multiple directions, while his ships could only face one threat at a time. Worst of all, They seemed to enjoy the battle. Kethvar warriors fought because it was their duty to the Dominion. These humans fought like they were having fun while destroying his fleet. They laughed on their communication channels and made jokes while killing his people. "Admiral," his communication officer said quietly, "we are receiving another message from the human fleet command." Admiral Voss appeared on his screen again, and she looked even more confident than before. Behind her, tactical displays showed the remains of his once mighty fleet. Less than 400 ships remained operational. "Admiral Zexhai," she said, "I hope you are beginning to appreciate the situation you find yourself in. Your fleet has been reduced by 75%. Your remaining ships are scattered and disorganized. You have no way to call for reinforcements because we have jammed all your long-range communications." Zexhai said nothing. There was nothing left to say. "But I am not completely without mercy. I am prepared to offer you terms that will allow some of your people to survive this encounter." "What terms?" Zexhai asked through gritted teeth. Admiral Voss smiled, and it was the smile of a predator who had cornered her prey. "Complete surrender and immediate withdrawal from this solar system. Leave behind all your weapons and technology. Take only your fastest ships and run back to Dominion space as quickly as you can. And if I refuse? Then we continue this battle until every last one of your ships is destroyed," Admiral Voss said simply. "The choice is yours, Admiral, but I should warn you that we have saved our most powerful weapons for last. What you have seen so far is just the beginning of what humans can do when we decide to go to war." Admiral Zexhai stared at Admiral Voss through the communication screen, his pride warring with his survival instincts. Around him, his bridge crew waited for his decision. Through the viewports, he could see the burning remains of his once proud fleet drifting through space like funeral pyres. "You ask me to surrender to a species we considered primitive," he said slowly. "The Dominion will never accept such shame." Admiral Voss nodded as if she had expected this answer. "I understand your position, Admiral. Pride is important to your people. But I wonder if you will still feel that way in a few minutes." As she spoke, every sensor on Zexhai's flagship began screaming warnings. His science officer looked at his instruments with growing terror. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. But the readings make no sense. The power levels are beyond anything we have seen." "Show me," Zexhai ordered. The main screen switched to a tactical view of the solar system. What Zexhai saw made his blood turn cold. The human ships were not randomly scattered as he had thought. They had been carefully herding his fleet toward one specific location, Earth's moon. And the moon was doing something impossible. Massive sections of the lunar surface were opening like flower petals, revealing structures that had been hidden beneath. These were not simple weapons platforms. They were engineering projects that must have taken decades to complete. The humans had hollowed out their moon and turned it into the largest weapon in known space. "Magnificent, is it not?" Admiral Voss said from the screen. "We call it the Luna Cannon, 40 years of secret construction, hidden from every spy and sensor in the galaxy. Your intelligence networks never suspected that we were rebuilding our moon from the inside out. Energy readings from the lunar weapon were climbing to levels that Zexhai's instruments could barely measure. The weapon was drawing power from fusion reactors buried deep in the moon's core. When it fired, it would release more destructive force than his entire fleet combined." "This is impossible," Zexhai whispered. "Your species lacks the technology for such construction." "Did we?" Admiral Voss asked. "Or did we simply let you think we lacked it? Every piece of Kethvar technology that fell into our hands through convenient accidents was studied and improved. Every failed alien invasion of primitive worlds gave us new ideas. We have been building this weapon specifically to destroy Dominion fleets since before you knew our species existed." The Luna cannon's energy signature was now visible to the naked eye. The entire side of the moon, facing the alien fleet, glowed with barely contained power. Space around the weapon distorted like air above a hot road, reality itself bending under the forces being generated. Admiral Zexhai looked at his tactical officer. "How many ships do we have left?" 347 vessels, still capable of fighting, sir, came the grim reply. "But if that weapon fires at full power, it could destroy our entire remaining fleet in a single shot." Zexhai closed his eyes and tried to think. His people had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years through strength and fear. They had never encountered a species that could match their technology, much less exceed it. But these humans had done exactly that, while pretending to be helpless primitives. "Admiral," his communication officer said urgently, "I am receiving reports from our outer scouts. The humans have similar weapons on several asteroids and the planet they call Mars. We are surrounded by more firepower than has ever been assembled in one place." Opening his eyes, Zexhai looked at Admiral Voss on the screen. She was waiting patiently for his decision, like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere left to run. "You planned all of this," he said. "The positioning of my fleet, the location of this battle, everything was designed to bring us to this exact moment." "Of course," Admiral Voss replied. "We are not barbarians, Admiral. We do not fight without thinking first. This entire battle has been a demonstration of what happens when someone tries to conquer humanity. Your fleet was never in a real fight. You were being taught a lesson." The Luna cannon's charge cycle was nearing completion. Energy readings were approaching levels that would make the weapon impossible to stop or defend against. Even if Zexhai scattered his remaining ships across the solar system, the humans had enough similar weapons to destroy them all. "What lesson?" Zexhai asked quietly. Admiral Voss leaned forward, and her eyes became hard as steel. "The lesson that humanity does not kneel to anyone. The lesson that we turn everything around us into a weapon when we need to defend ourselves. The lesson that underestimating our species is the last mistake any enemy will ever make." As she spoke, the Luna cannon reached full charge. The weapon's energy signature was so powerful that it overloaded sensors across both fleets. This was not just a gun built into a moon. This was the moon itself converted into a directed energy weapon that could crack planets. Zexhai realized that his choice was no longer between victory and defeat. It was between some of his people living or all of them dying. The humans had not just outfought his fleet. They had shown him that his entire understanding of galactic warfare was obsolete. "I surrender," he said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "My remaining ships will withdraw from your solar system immediately." Admiral Voss nodded. "A wise decision, Admiral. But before you go, you will do one more thing for us. You will carry a message back to the Kethvar Dominion and every other species that thinks humanity is weak." "What message?" "Tell them what you found here," Admiral Voss said. "Tell them that Earth is not a world to be conquered. Tell them that humans do not just defend their territory, we weaponize it. Tell them that we spent 50 years preparing for visitors like you, and that next time, we might not be so generous with survivors." The Luna cannon began to power down, but slowly, as if the humans wanted to make sure every alien sensor recorded its capabilities. Other weapons throughout the solar system also reduced their energy signatures, revealing the true extent of humanity's hidden military might. "You will have 1 hour to collect your surviving crews and depart our space," Admiral Voss continued. "Any ship that remains after that time will be destroyed. Any ship that ever returns to this system will be destroyed. And Admiral, the next fleet that comes here had better bring a lot more ships than you did as well." As Zexhai's battered fleet began its shameful retreat toward the edge of the solar system, He could not stop thinking about what he had witnessed. The humans had not just defeated the Dominion's finest fleet, they had made it look easy while barely revealing their true capabilities. His sensors showed that the asteroid belt contained dozens more weapons platforms than had actually fired. Mars had hidden launch bays that were still sealed and unused, and Earth itself was covered with defense installations that had never needed to activate during the battle. The terrifying truth was that humanity had fought this entire battle with only a fraction of their available forces. They had destroyed his fleet while treating it as a training exercise for their real military. As the last Kethvar ships fled human space, Admiral Voss turned to her staff in the underground command bunker. "Well done, everyone. Begin Phase 2 of our expansion plans. I think it is time the galaxy learned what happens when humans decide to go exploring." The officers around the table smiled grimly. The defense of Earth had been just the beginning. Now that the galaxy knew humanity was not helpless prey, it was time to show them what apex predators could do when they went hunting. Admiral Zexhi's last transmission from the edge of the solar system was heard by species across the galaxy. "Stay away from the humans. Whatever you do, never go to Earth. They are not what they appear to be. They are not prey. They are the hunters, and we are all their targets now." The age of human expansion had begun.